2024 has been an incredible year for strategy games in so many ways, with both the return of heavy hitters and indie games entering the scene for the first time. In this video, I'll get right into the thick of it with you and tell you which of the biggest and most anticipated strategy games of 2024 you should be playing right now, in no particular order. So make sure to leave a like, your comment, and subscribe to the channel if you found this video helpful. And by the way, make sure to check out today's sponsor, Arcane Wilds, a groundbreaking strategy game that blends Wild West fantasy with an innovative twist on the RTS genre. With unique resource management mechanics, a captivating mission mode packed with replayability, and endless customization options for your own faction, this is a fresh take you won't want to miss. Right now, you can grab it on a massive sale during the Steam Real-Time Strategy Fest or try out the demo for free. A huge thanks to Arcane Wilds for sponsoring this video. This was the year Manor Lords finally released, and man, this was a major one. Manor Lords is an entirely new take on the city builder where the focus has been placed on realism, aesthetics, and realism, because so much effort has gone into making this game as immersive and true to the medieval period as possible. Here, building new housing and industry is crucial to maintain and expand your town, but there is more than just peaceful activities going on here. Due to nearby bandits and a rival lord, you need to maintain an army of either homegrown soldiers or high-paid mercenaries to defend yourself, and much like in a certain other strategy game, maneuver them in real time on the battlefield against the enemy. Manor Lords is amazingly chill and intensely cinematic at the same time, and even though it must be said that this game is yet to be finished as it will continue its early access for some time, what's here is staggeringly beautiful, and I've loved my almost 100 hours of playtime in the game so far, meaning that Manor Lords is definitely worth a look. One of my absolute favorite strategy games of the year was Total War Pharaoh Dynasties, and despite Pharaoh technically coming out in 2023, this overhaul was so major that Creative Assembly deemed to make it its very own title on Steam, which is why I'm also giving it its own spot right here. Pharaoh Dynasties takes place in the Bronze Age and allows us to take on the role of the leaders of the time period's great civilizations. Since Dynasties encompasses the entirety of what's considered the classic Bronze Age region, we can now play as both the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hatti, and the Assyrians, along with many other sub-factions all over the map. Pharaoh Dynasties already comes with an awesome trading system which highlights the importance of resources, but with the all-new family tree and the titular dynasty system, you can now duke it out in your internal cultural kingdom courts, using intrigue and power to make your way to the top as powerful kings or pharaohs, or use marriage and diplomacy to stake your claim and increase your influence around the world. With a myriad of gods and faction-specific mechanics to play around with, Total War campaigns have rarely been better, but we also have the battlefields to deal with here, of course. And thankfully, Dynasties offers some of the coolest battles in some time, with new unit formations, a new lethality system which makes everything a lot more intense and tactical, a new weather system, and with siege battles that harken back to the golden age of the series. All in all, Total War Pharaoh Dynasties is one of the best Total War games of the past decade, and certainly one of the best strategy games of 2024. Citadelum is another charming indie city builder, but one quite different from Manor Lords. We now find ourselves in the Roman era, very fittingly might I add, since this game also tries to capture that nostalgic feeling and playstyle of early city builders, but in a more modern package. Citadelum is great because I find that it really manages to do that, to create a fun and smart city builder that looks good and offers some cool mechanics. It not only looks great, but it also demands that you manage its different layers of complexity. The city itself, the gods who must be appeased and can either help or attack you depending on your dedication to them, and the overlay map, which features both opportunities for foreign trade and for a unique battle map. This is where your soldiers from the city are sent on the campaign map when they meet enemy forces, and even though the battles themselves aren't very complex, it's a neat and fun cinematic layer to play around with and watch. Citadelum is a great Roman city builder with strategy elements, so check it out if that interests you. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is the sequel to the beloved first entry with the same name, and offers an RTS experience like few others. But instead of being a grand strategy game like Stellaris, it's much more like a traditional RTS game, although on a larger scale, involving shipbuilding, resource extraction, war, some diplomacy, tech upgrades, and of course exploration. What I love about this game is that it pretty much instantly gets you into the action and doesn't require dozens of hours to learn, because on the surface it's fairly simple. The UI focuses on being user-friendly and allowing you to manage different planets and fleets from a few main windows, or manually one by one if you so wish, and I have to say I felt completely in love with the visuals here, as things like traveling through wormholes at light speed and the combat itself looks so beautiful. It's also great that Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is so multiplayer focused, meaning that you can enjoy this just as easily on your own as with friends online. Songs of Steel Hispania is unique so far on this list in that it's a narrative-based strategy game, and because it takes place in Hispania during the Roman invasion. Here, your choices on the campaign map has ramifications for what happens down the line in the story, with different characters facing various choices. The battlefield is where the main gameplay awaits though, interestingly in a turn-based system reminiscent of CRPGs, where the stats of each unit, but also their positioning in the terrain and relative to enemies, determines how well they fight. Winning battles nets you resources, which is important because the campaign allows you to recruit and outfit your armies and generals with various new gear, so it's very possible to change up your playstyle depending on how you like to play. Songs of Steel Hispania is a great little title that definitely deserves your attention, so make sure to check it out if you've been looking for a different type of Roman strategy game. One of my favorite new grand strategy games on the scene this year is Field of Glory Kingdoms, which, if you can believe it, feels like something of a mix between Total War and Paradox. This medieval campaign, taking place mostly in Europe and the Near East, or depending on your campaign, allows you to assume control of various kingdoms and empires of this era, having you deal with their various kingdom and religious systems. This is a game about building your nation's prosperity and capacity for war, but also to deal diplomatically with your neighbors. This can get a bit complex since there's a system of options and abilities here that's like nothing you've ever seen before, unless you've played Field of Glory Empires, perhaps the Roman-themed first game. However, this depth is what makes it interesting, and the more you play, the more you learn, which finally has you reaching that eureka moment where everything falls into place and you truly start loving what's going on here. And the awesome part is, if you own Field of Glory 2 Medieval, which is a game from the same publisher but a different developer, Kingdoms actually integrates them near seamlessly, meaning that you can actually combine a massive and deep campaign experience with a highly tactical battle experience, making for a unique, deep, and fun campaign once you've gotten the hang of things. Field of Glory Kingdoms is unique and a great grand strategy experience, and I really think it deserves a lot more praise than what it's gotten so far. Songs of Conquest finally fully released this year and is a beautiful reimagining of Heroes of Might and Magic, but it does so in gorgeous pixel art and new ways to play, with varied maps, factions, battlefields and environments, extensive resource management and empire building, and a combat system that depends on what you've done in the campaign in highly tactical battles. Songs of Conquest is probably going to be what you've wished for so long if you played Might and Magic as a youngster. You can even play it with friends, there are multiple campaigns to play, and an in-game map editor if you wish to create scenarios and campaigns of your own. Also releasing this year was Godsworn, another indie title that tries to bring back the glory days of RTS, this time being heavily inspired by the Warcraft series. Godsworn is beautiful and playful and takes place in the interesting times of the Baltic Crusades, but with a mythological spin on things. As is tradition, you must build your settlement to be able to sustain yourself and expand, both in terms of your town and armies. You can even play this campaign in single player or in online co-op, making the entire game potentially a lot more dynamic and interesting. 2024 was the year when Millennia from Paradox released, the first game in a while when the publisher chose to take on a sector of the strategy space it hadn't touched yet. Millennia is essentially a rival of and takes a lot of inspiration from the Civilization series, but doing so from a Paradox perspective, attempting to bring some new innovations and more depth to the scene. As such, this is a game based around the 4X systems, where exploration, resources and so on are crucial for survival. There's also an interesting but slightly underwhelming combat window you can view as the battles go on, which I appreciate despite making me want more from this mechanic. With 2 major DLC updates behind it, it has quite a lot of content now, and if you want something to play to scratch that Civilization itch, Millennia just might be it. Then we have Arcane Wilds, perhaps the most innovative game on this list, because here, despite the clear golden age of RTS inspirations, the devs have mixed up these real-time battles with a hub area that you upgrade as you go, with resources gathered from your battles. In this way, we have a kind of consistent campaign going on outside of our real-time battles, all in both a single-player and multiplayer scene, where the use of resources and the ability to sabotage your enemies by stealing theirs is crucial. As fresh of an experience as it feels familiar then, Arcane Wilds is a game you should try out right now. And now, the third songs-based strategy game on this list, we have Songs of Silence, an incredibly charming, beautiful, and fun strategy game that also tries something new. Combining a gorgeously handcrafted and colorful campaign map with a story-rich campaign where both exploration and kingdom management is key, you must take it all to the battlefield to truly succeed. But the kicker here is that this is an auto-battler, allowing you to set your formations and sit back and watch as your campaign-built medieval fantasy army does its thing on the battlefield, although you can always help them out with certain powerful abilities through your cards of fate. Songs of Silence is just a fun and charming 4X strategy game with battles that you must try, especially if you wish to ditch some of the deeper complexities for a story-rich and thematic strategy experience. A completely different game and yet also familiar, we have Total War Empire Mobile Edition, which is the entire, complete Total War game made for iOS and Android devices. Developer Pharaoh Interactive has worked its magic here, managing not only to put this massive game on handheld mobile devices, but to also add entirely new mechanics or fix certain issues that plagued the original game on PC. Strangely enough, this makes Empire for mobile the best version of Empire Total War, and could, if released on PC, on its own be hailed as an Empire Total War remaster if such a thing were to happen. Age of Mythology is yet another blast from the past, but in a completely different package, bringing this Age of Empires style game to a modern audience and with beautifully updated 4K visuals with ray tracing to boot. Age of Mythology is essentially a more magical and out-of-this-world style version of Age of Empires, meaning that you're still focusing on the same 4X gameplay loop of exploration, town building, resource extraction, and ultimately warfare when meeting other factions. The reason I find this more fun than the regular AoE though is simply because it comes across as a lot more charming to me and a bit more fun, since I find that games like these do crave cool abilities to bring that extra oomph to the experience. Luckily, the game was perfectly remade after all these years and with multiplayer abilities too, including multiple campaigns and skirmish matches, so if you come to love this game as I have, you have so many hours of fun and strategy ahead of you. Frostpunk 2 is the long-awaited sequel to Frostpunk, and even though it's different from the first game, it offers some amazing strategy too. Much larger in scale now, this is more of a management game than something as down-to-earth as the first game, but the absolutely gorgeous visuals, the setting of a frozen post-apocalyptic world, and a society that has to be saved from the clutches of icy oblivion is still compelling. And I think with more updates and DLC, this could become even better in the future. Lastly, and a game that officially released on Steam this year, we have Ultimate General American Revolution. Taking place during the American Revolutionary War, this is also something of a Total War-inspired game, although here we are mixing a real-time campaign with real-time battle maps. Here you must recruit units and manage your cities while you're fighting the British, which is no easy task, since these people will come to America in droves. As such, this campaign is not for the faint-hearted, but the battles, both naval and land by the way, is what makes this so interesting to me. I love the simple, yet charming visuals in every aspect of this game. Still in early access, you will find a few quirks and perhaps find the game a bit unbalanced, but nevertheless, it's such a unique title that if you wanted to support an indie dev on a large project in this time period and with this scope, you can't go too wrong with Ultimate General American Revolution. Those were the best, biggest, and most anticipated completely new strategy games to Steam of 2024 in my opinion. And as you can tell, there is a bunch here, a massive amount of titles that all offer something of value and countless of hours of gameplay. Now it's your turn to let me know which you've enjoyed this year and if you have yet to try the ones I've talked about here. So tell me if this video changed your mind on any of them, or perhaps I forgot some that you felt should have been on the list. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!